We're talking specifically about the Stoic Mindset, a 3-step mental framework that anyone can use starting right now to turn any adversity that they face into fuel for growth. Yo, welcome to episode 8 of Brolosophy. I am Mike Theo.
And I am Nick Theo.
And we are the Theo Bros.
And our intention with this podcast is super simple: to share practical wisdom for a happier, more fulfilling life.
Yes. And today we are talking about something that we all face: adversity. More specifically, we are talking about how we can use the 2,000-year-old philosophy of Stoicism to overcome any adversity that comes our way. And to double click that even further, we're talking specifically about the Stoic Mindset, a 3-step mental framework that anyone can use starting right now to turn any adversity that they face into fuel for growth. So hopefully by the end of this episode, not only will we, but everyone watching and listening will be able to use this Stoic mindset so that nothing bad ever happens to them ever again. And what I mean by that is you can reframe anything that's quote unquote bad into something that is good using this mindset.
Yeah, it's a super powerful mindset. I'm pumped to talk about it. But before we get into all that, I want to say thank you to every single person watching or listening right now. Quick little favor to ask: can you please hit that subscribe button either on YouTube or on the podcast platform you're listening to? It makes a huge difference for us.
Yeah, we're just starting out, and this is only our 8th episode, so every little subscriber really does count right now.
Little bro.
That's true. Every subscriber counts. You matter.
You matter. No, seriously, hit that subscribe button. Help us out so we can get more videos out to you and to grow this community of lifelong learners. Now, with that out of the way, let's jump right into the Stoic Mindset, Mike.
Well, why don't you start by telling the story of how we actually kind of fell into this 3-step mental framework that we now call the Stoic Mindset?
Yeah. So you know that quote by Mike Tyson where he says, everyone has a plan until they're punched in the mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel Mike on that because I had a plan in 2015 when I had just graduated college that I was going to, get into the corporate world, work my ass off, and climb the corporate ladder. That was my plan. That all changed when I was literally punched in the face and assaulted. It was a Sunday morning, and on the weekends, I was playing in an intramural football league with my buddies from college as a way to stay in touch, and it was awesome. But this one Sunday, we were versing a team that took the game a little more serious than us, I guess. They thought they were about to be drafted in the next NFL draft. Mm-hmm. They had the stitched jerseys, all that good stuff. So they show up to the field. They're like ready to go to battle. And here we are, like a little hungover on a Sunday morning playing this game. So we start playing and we end up beating them pretty badly, right? We're up like 4 touchdowns at this point, and they're just pissed off. They are yelling at us, yelling at each other, yelling at the refs. Like they are self-imploding.
Killing their dream.
It was really... It was atrocious. They were like, how are these guys beating us? It was bad. So now we're getting towards the end of the game. My friend goes deep for a pass. Quarterback overthrows him. And about 5 seconds after the ball lands, a dude from the other team comes over and throws him to the floor. So now my friend stands up. He's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? And the other dude starts now approaching him, basically ready to fight. Sure. And I see this from the other side of the field. I run over, I get in between them, and I'm just like, relax. Before I can get out another word, a dude jumps over his back, lands a haymaker on my face, and I drop down to the floor and lose consciousness.
Damn, son.
Fighting starts breaking out all around me. Eventually, the cops are called. Kind of the other team runs away. I finally come back to my senses. And while I'm on the floor, blood is dripping out. And with my tongue, I felt there was a gap in the bottom of my teeth. And I'm like, shit, I think I got my tooth knocked out. How the hell? My first thought was like, how the hell am I going to go into my corporate job tomorrow with a missing tooth? Like, I'm a real degenerate. So I'm all worried. So I run over to the sideline. I get my phone to like assess the situation. And I take a selfie of my mouth. And I realize my tooth isn't missing. My jaw is just literally split in half. So I'm like, oh boy, this isn't good. I immediately get rushed to the hospital, and we walk into the ER, and I'm bleeding all over the place, and they tell me to sit down. But eventually they're like, okay, yeah, we
need to get this guy.
everywhere. They like rush me in, and they look at me, and they're like, okay, we need to call a dental surgeon in. It's Sunday. We don't have one in. They call him up. He comes in right away. He looks at me. He's like, damn, I think we need another dental surgeon. Jesus. He calls in another dental surgeon. And then the next thing I know, I'm lying back, and these two dental surgeons are going at it on my mouth, trying to wire my jaw back together and closed.
Oh, my God.
And the whole time I'm awake. I have all this blood in my mouth.
Did they give you any anesthesia?
No, they just
local anesthesia?
Yeah, just like numbing of the gums. Anesthesia. Yeah, but nothing other than that. So like...
Jeez.
But so, and the whole time you're bleeding and you can't get any of that blood out now. So I'm literally like drinking blood while they're going one tooth at a time, putting a wire around it, cranking me close. It was extremely painful, excruciating pain. So now they wire me shut, and now like everything, they put me back into the hospital. They put me in a room in the hospital, and now it's kind of like all hitting me. Like, what the hell just happened? Right? So I'm sitting there, and the scene just keeps playing over and over in my head. Like, you know when you wish you can go back and like change things so the whole thing didn't happen? It's like that's what's happening, and I'm like playing over the whole scene, and every time I'm like, why did this guy punch me? Like, why me? Why did he hit me? Why did this happen to me? Why me? Why me? Why me? Why me? And I'm drilling down.
It's not fair.
It's not fair. And then
I was trying to stop it.
Yeah.
And I'm the one who got screwed over.
Yeah. It was all this, that was the whole comment there.
I mean, it really isn't fair.
But then as I was sitting there, like a quote that I read, like literally 3 days before this happened, came into my mind. And it was by Booker T. Washington. And it said, I shall allow no man to belittle my soul by making me hate him. And when I remember that quote, I was able to rise above thought for a second. And also, I didn't want to be a hypocrite. Like, I was reading this philosophy and these quotes every day for a reason. It was so that, like, I actually lived my life this way, right? And now this was an opportunity for me to actually practice the stuff I was reading, not just in theory and have brain sex with these ideas. And when I remembered that quote, it made me realize, like, I don't have to give this dude that did this to me power. Like, I can take the power back.
Yeah.
And truthfully, I have no idea why that kid reacted the way he did. I started like practicing some empathy and being like, maybe he grew up in an abusive household where he was constantly beaten as a kid, all this stuff. And it kind of allowed me to like forgive him a little. I don't just like, it's not justified what he did. Like whatever, he should be punished for what he did. But it kind of allowed me to just like forgive him. And then I started thinking about like, okay, this is my situation. I'm here. This happened. My mouth is wired shut. And the doctor just came in here and told me it's going to be wired shut for 3 months.
Damn.
It gave me 3 months out of work while I was getting paid to sit home and recover to really think critically and go deep within myself of why, and ask myself, why am I here? So for 3 months, I read all those books that were piling up on my bookshelf that I never had time to get to. I started journaling and meditating for the first time to really go deep and try to understand what was going on inside of me. And for someone who loves to talk, it forced me to try to tame the thoughts in my mind, to really slow things down.
Yeah.
And it gave me so much clarity. It brought me to this place where I found my purpose. And it was this purpose of, I want to bring out the best in people. I really love people. And I got to stop pursuing this accounting job that's just
Nothing to do with people.
really is not getting me closer to feeling this passion every day that I know I have, which is to bring out the best in people. And I need to start making a plan to move in that direction. And that's when me and you decided to quit our jobs and pursue entrepreneurship together, where our goal is to bring out the best in people. And that's kind of where we are today on this podcast, doing this exact thing. And little side note here, to go full circle with the whole story, that broken jaw ended up being featured as a smile on millions of bags of Lay's potato chips for the work we started doing with Blankets of Hope, helping people. And it's a hat tip to the fact that whenever something terrible that you think is terrible that happens to you in your life, look deeper, because those moments actually can create the greatest transformation in your life. At least that's what I've experienced in my life.
I love that. And I think we should spend the rest of this episode answering the question, but how? So if I am listening or watching this and I'm going through something tough, big or small, whether it be a death in the family, a breakup, I just got fired from my job, I just got assaulted, raped, who knows what it could be.
Yeah.
Let's go through the how. As we reflected back on your experience together, we realized that all of that stoicism that we had been reading up until that point had crystallized for us. And looking back, we were able to connect the dots into a 3-step process that we still use to this day whenever something quote unquote bad happens to us.
Yeah.
That 3-step process is something we call the Stoic Mindset, aka the AAA framework.
Yeah.
And it consists of 3 simple steps, each starting with the letter A, hence AAA. So the first step is awareness. So I'm going to take you back to that moment where you were in the hospital.
Yeah.
You got punched in the face. Your world got twisted upside down.
Yeah.
And then you had that moment in the hospital where you were laying in that bed. Take me back to that moment and how you practiced awareness.
You know, awareness, the best way to describe it is like sometimes the best way to describe something is the opposite of it, right? So it's like, you know, when you're a drug addict, right? And they say in the 12-step process, the first step is like admitting that you have a problem, right? That's kind of this step. It's like being aware that this is your current situation.
Right.
And in the hospital, when everything settled and all the emotions kind of came at rest, like all the adrenaline passed, the shock passed, and I was just sitting in that hospital bed by myself.
Yeah.
That's when I really became aware of, okay, this is my situation.
Yeah.
This is what I am facing right now.
Yeah.
And that was the first step for me to then take the next step.
So basically, awareness is stopping and taking an objective, not a subjective, but an objective viewpoint of the situation that you were in.
Exactly. Yeah.
So to make this a more real life, everyday example, you're in traffic and you're getting really fucking angry because you're late to your job.
Yeah.
Or we'll just stick with that example. Awareness in that moment would be coming back to your breath and just taking a deep breath and saying, okay, I'm sitting in traffic right now and I'm experiencing anger.
Yeah.
It's just taking that step back.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's putting yourself in the corner of the room and looking back at yourself and realizing this is the situation.
Like you're the subject of an experiment.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have to turn into a scientist.
Yeah, you have to rise above thought.
Now, once you become aware, that's not enough. You're just aware of the situation. The next step is the second A, acceptance, which is, in my opinion, hearing your story, the fucking hardest part of this whole process. I have no idea how you actually forgave that dude for what he did. I don't know if I could, but why don't you touch on this part of your story?
Acceptance is, so going back to the stoicism of this all, right? The stoicism ties pretty greatly into this right now, in the sense of like, the concept of Stoic philosophy is basically a simple rule. It's focus on what you can control and forget about what you cannot control.
Yeah.
And this was the point where I realized I cannot control this other guy.
Yeah.
I can't control why he did this. I can't control that he did this.
Yeah.
The only possible thing I can control is what meaning I give it and what I do about it. That's it.
Yeah, Seneca has a great quote. He says, "Suffering arises from trying to control what is uncontrollable."
Yeah, exactly. I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
So basically what you're saying is acceptance is the next step, because when you're in that place of awareness, you realize two things. There are things within my control about this situation, and there are things outside of my control about this situation.
Yeah.
So if we take it back to the traffic example, you're sitting in traffic.
Yep.
You're aware of the fact that you're sitting in traffic. You're aware of the fact that you can't turn your car into a flying car and start flying over it. You're stuck here. There's nothing that you can do to make the cars move faster.
Yep.
You have to be willing to accept the reality of that situation. Why? How? Because you have to realize that there's no other option if you want to be happy.
Yeah.
Like Seneca says, suffering arises from trying to control what is uncontrollable. It's just sheer logic.
Yep.
You can't focus on what you can't control. You have to surrender to those things that you can't control. It sounds like stupid. It sounds like, oh, okay, you guys are telling me something I already know, obviously. But it's like, it's the truth.
And like the ironic part of it all is that when you do get to that place of surrender or acceptance, whatever you want to call it, it sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually when you get your power back,
Yeah.
not lose the power, right?
Yeah.
Because when you put your focus on the stuff you can't control is when all the power you actually have to make a difference gets completely depleted.
Exactly.
But when you surrender to the things you cannot control and go only to the things that you can control, that is when you are the most powerful motherfucker on the planet.
Yeah. And that brings this full circle to part number 3. So
The most important part.
the most important, you became aware of the situation. You've accepted the things that you cannot control. The third A is action. Taking action on the things that are within your control. Asking yourself, how can I make the best of this? What can I actually do to make the best of this situation?
And that's like the golden question, right? That if like if you forget everything we just talked about and you just go, every time something bad happens, you just simply ask yourself, what can I do to make the best of this situation?
Yeah.
If you just get your mind wired to respond to any sort of adversity with that question, your brain will be like a heat-seeking missile looking for the best solution to turn any adversity into your advantage.
Yeah. And going back to Stoicism on this one and how this really all comes from this 2,000-year-old philosophy. By the way, that last quote about suffering arises from trying to control what is uncontrollable is actually not from Seneca. It's from Epictetus, who was a slave.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense why he's the one who said that. And then he goes on to say, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens, which is the action part of this. It's become aware of the situation objectively. Remove yourself from your emotions. Look at it for the facts that it is.
Yeah.
Accept the things about the situation that you cannot control and take action on the things that you can. It's a simple triple A framework, and it just is.
You know why I love Stoicism? Because it's literally the common sense philosophy.
Yeah,
it is so common sense. It's not this complicated thing, right? It's so simple to understand. Yeah. Okay, we can only control so much. Let's put our attention, our limited energy that we have, on the stuff that we can actually change to make a difference in the situation.
All right. And rest is wasted energy.
And it's common sense. It's very easy to understand. But what happens? Our emotions sometimes get the best of us.
Yeah.
And our human psychology gets us to try to look for other people to blame or
victim mentality,
reasons why this happened outside of what's in our control. And that is the cause of all misery. To go full circle here, though, what we're trying to really put out there is that when bad stuff, so-called bad stuff, adversity strikes in life, it really is an opportunity.
Yeah.
And we can experience something called post-traumatic growth.
Yeah.
Where we turn the worst thing that happens to us into the best, most transformative thing that ever happened to us. And I think if we can latch on to that mindset that adversity is an opportunity for extreme growth, we're going to unlock so much potential inside of us.
I agree. And this can once again be used in moments of big adversity or moments of little adversity. Like going back to that traffic example, to come full circle with this AAA, you become aware that you're sitting in traffic. You accept the fact that there's nothing you can do to make these cars go faster. You might actually have to accept that you're going to be late. But what can you do? What action can you take? You can turn on the podcast, call a friend, do something where you make the most of that time. Who knows? Maybe you call a friend and have a conversation that changes your life.
Maybe you listen to Brolosophy and, improve the quality of your mindset.
You find an idea that will make you never the same ever again. Like, you never know what can happen, but like you said, it's just common sense to do this. Yeah. Like, the alternative is misery.
Yeah, Stoicism, common sense philosophy.
All right, so let's wrap this up with the call to action. It's very simple this time. Whenever you're facing adversity, big or small, try to remember the AAA framework or the Stoic Mindset, which consists of 3 A's. First step is awareness. What about this situation is in my control? Second step, acceptance. Am I willing to accept the parts of this situation that are out of my control? Can I really accept those things that I cannot do anything about? And once you've gotten to that place of surrender to those things, you can be put in this place of power where you take the final and most important step, which is action, and ask yourself that golden question. What can I do to make the best of this situation? And you take that positive action, because that is the only thing that we can do with the hand of cards that we were dealt.
That's beautifully put.
All right.
Excellent ending, bro.
Well, thank you for coming. Once again, if you haven't subscribed, please do. We're just starting out. Every subscriber counts. I love you. We appreciate you. We love you.
Love you. Episode 8 in the books.
Hope you're enjoying them.
Peace.
Peace.